The galactic cultural exchange had been running for 3 centuries before humanity stumbled into it like a drunk, wandering into a symphony hall. The other species, the elegant Zephyrians with their crystalline sculptures, the mathematical Vorthak, with their geometric perfection, the sensory-gifted Kree with their four-dimensional tapestries, had initially welcomed Earth's contribution with polite curiosity. Then they saw what humans called art. Ambassador Kethavar of the Zephyrian Collective nearly shattered his own crystalline form, laughing when the first human exhibition opened on Nexus Station. The crude paintings, with their clumsy brushstrokes and primitive color mixing, seemed almost insulting next to the quantum-carved light sculptures that adorned the main gallery. The human representative, Dr. Sarah Chen, stood beside a canvas covered in violent swirls of red and black, explaining with embarrassing enthusiasm that it represented the human condition. Fascinating, Kethavar had said, his voice harmonizing, in frequencies that suggested barely contained mirth. And this condition, it troubles your species? Sometimes, Dr. Chen had replied, seemingly oblivious to the condescension dripping from the ambassador's photonic aura. That's why we paint it. The gallery tour continued with similar exchanges. A sculpture made of twisted metal and broken glass that humans called shattered dreams prompted actual giggling from a group of young Kree artists. A series of photographs showing decay and beauty intertwined, flowers growing through skulls, rust-consuming machines, made several Vorthak delegates exchange those rapid mathematical sequences that passed for whispered jokes in their culture. By the exhibition's end, the general consensus among the galactic cultural elite was clear. Humans were charmingly primitive, their art an amusing footnote in the grand tapestry of galactic civilization. The pieces were relegated to a small corner of the cultural archive, more anthropological curiosity than legitimate artistic expression. That should have been the end of it. 3 months later, Kethavar noticed the dreams starting. They began, subtly, flashes of crimson and shadow bleeding into his usual meditation cycles. Zephyrians experienced rest through harmonic resonance, their consciousness flowing in perfect mathematical waves. But now, chaotic splashes of color disrupted his patterns. Twisted metal shapes invaded his geometric serenity. Worse, he found himself disturbed by beauty. A perfect crystal formation in his garden suddenly seemed incomplete without some flaw, some crack that would let darkness seep through. He wasn't alone. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Vorthak mathematicians found their perfect equations, haunted by irregular variables. Kree artists began incorporating harsh angular elements that made their audiences uncomfortable. Even the stoic Grenth, who experienced art through electromagnetic fields, reported disturbances in their neural patterns. The Galactic Cultural Council convened an emergency session. Their investigation led to a disturbing discovery. Every species that had viewed the human exhibition was affected. The crude, primitive art had somehow infected their consciousness, spreading through their cultural networks like a virus. Dr. Chen was summoned for questioning. "What did you do to us?" demanded Vorthak Prime Calculator Nexus 7, his usually stable mathematical expressions fluctuating wildly. "Your primitive daubs have contaminated our artistic matrices." Dr. Chen studied the assembled beings with curious eyes. Contaminated or opened? Explain. Kethavar's harmonics cracked with barely controlled distress. We are experiencing discord, imperfection. These sensations are unknown to our species. No, Dr. Chen said quietly. They're not unknown. You've just spent millennia perfecting them away. She activated a holographic display, showing brain scans and consciousness patterns from various species. Every advanced civilization in this galaxy has achieved what you call cultural perfection by eliminating what you consider flaws. The Zephyrians removed chaos from their art. The Vorthak eliminated emotional variables from their mathematics. The Kree filtered out anything that couldn't be experienced in perfect harmony. The display shifted, showing human neural patterns alongside the others. But humans never figured out how to separate beauty from horror, order from chaos, hope from despair. We're not advanced enough. Our art is contaminated with everything you've spent eons trying to purify away. And this contamination is spreading? The Grenth representative's electromagnetic field flickered with what could only be described as fear. Not contamination, Dr. Chen corrected. Completion. You've all been looking at art through filters, experiencing only the parts that fit your cultural paradigms. Human art doesn't use filters. It shows everything at once. The beautiful and the terrible, the meaningful and the absurd. When you looked at our paintings, your consciousness encountered concepts it had never processed before. Kethvar's crystalline structure dimmed. Are we damaged? Dr. Chen smiled, and for the first time since the interrogation began, her expression held genuine warmth. You're having your first complete aesthetic experience in millennia. What you call nightmares, we call dreams. What you call discord, we call music. What you call contamination, we call art. The silence that followed was profound. Finally, Vorthak Nexus 7 spoke, his mathematical patterns unstable but somehow more complex than before. These sensations, they are unpleasant, but also more. More what? Dr. Chen asked. More real. Over the following months, the galaxy watched in fascination and horror as their most sophisticated cultures began to change. Zephyrian crystals grew with intentional flaws. Vorthak equations incorporated beautiful irrationalities. Cree tapestries developed jagged edges and discordant notes that somehow made the harmony more profound. The human exhibition was moved, from its corner archive to the center of the cultural exchange, no longer as a curiosity but as a catalyst. Beings came from across the galaxy to experience what they now called complete art, not despite its imperfections, but because of them. Dr. Chen stood in the renovated gallery, watching a group of young Cree artists attempt their first human-style painting. Their work was crude, chaotic, and absolutely magnificent. How did you know? Kethvar approached, his crystalline form now deliberately asymmetrical, somehow more beautiful for its flaws. Know what? Dr. Chen asked. That we needed to be infected. Dr. Chen considered the question, watching the young artists struggle with concepts of beauty and horror, meaning and absurdity. We didn't know, she finally said. We just painted what we felt without trying to perfect it first. Turns out the galaxy was ready to feel something real again. The laughter had stopped. In its place was something far more valuable, the capacity to create art that could break hearts, inspire dreams, and yes, give nightmares. Because sometimes being human meant showing the universe what it looked like when you stopped trying to make everything perfect. And sometimes the universe needed to see that to remember what it meant to truly live.